So, according to my birth certificate, the name, because everybody, that seems to question the name seems like, it seems like the name, my marriage license says is the same name my birth certificate says. They say a marriage license is evidence of an identity of a husband, and a marriage license is the identity of a wife. And a marriage license uses names as an identity for a husband and a wife. This is the kind of marriage license I have. Growing up, the church would say no sex before marriage. They would say no children born out of wedlock are the rules of the God, where the idea of no sex before marriage and no children born out of wedlock, those ideas are ideas the church associated with God and being married and having sex. And they say sex means going all the way, something that can get a person pregnant with a baby. And then when a person is pregnant, they made a baby. And that a baby is a child, a living soul, and that abortion is murder of an unborn child and bad. So, I never participated in any of those types of abortions, whether it was at an abortion clinic or that stuff that people did. They said some people would use like a wire or a clothes hanger. Some people would call it a rack. And then they stuck stuff inside of people who were pregnant and murdered unborn children. I never did any of that stuff because as evidence of believing in a God, the God of being married, that's the way the church explained it to me. This is evidence of being married. It says April 30th, 2004 is the date of evidence of a marriage, and the marriage license is evidence of a marriage. The day I prayed for being married, having a wife, and my God is my witness of me being the type of husband my marriage, the day I prayed is a day I am not sure of, but it was way before April 30th, 2004. The marriage license is evidence of a marriage because in order to get a marriage license, they say that a person has to be 18 years old, and the birth certificate of April 30th, 2004 is evidence of the marriage license because the marriage license has a birth certificate. There is a section where the marriage license has a birth date of April 30th, 1986. So the marriage license of April 30th, 2004 is a birth certificate, a form of identity. So the marriage license is like a birth certificate and a marriage license. And the marriage license is like a birth certificate for me because it has a birth date of March 4th, 1984, the same name and the same date of birth. My birth certificate says March 4th, 1984. Believing in a God is what they say the church is all for. Believing in a God of no sex before marriage. And when they say no sex before marriage, they say I did it the right way because the only person I ever had sex with, and they say having sex means going all the way, is a person that said they are April using the same name this marriage license says, using the same birth date. The marriage license says the birth date of April 30th, 1986, and using the same marriage license of April 30th, 2004 as evidence that they say it's called legally, or it's legal, or it's not against the law of being married when a person is 18 years old being married. So I have a marriage license. Growing up going to different churches a lot, they all said the same thing. No sex outside of a marriage. So if you went all the way, and they say going all the way is what having sex is, And some people say having sex, you have to say having full-blown sex. They say that means that you wasn't just kissing and you wasn't just touching each other. You had full-blown sex, or you went all the way, and a person can get pregnant from doing full-blown sex, going all the way to the extent of getting a person pregnant. Stuff like that. According to my birth certificate, I am 39 years old. According to the birth certificate of April, she is 37 years old. I only ever had sex, or what they call going all the way, or what they call full-blown sex, something that can get a person pregnant. I only ever participated in those kind of activities with a person saying their name is April, using the same name, using the same marriage license, saying she is my wife, using the same birth date of April 30th, 2004, as evidence of a marriage, the marriage license of April 30th, 2004. They say that all the churches say that being tempted, or they say it's called solicited, and they say it's spelled SOLICITED. They say being solicited is when other people who are not your spouse, the person you are married to, when other people try getting people involved in sexual activity, having sex or going all the way and stuff like that. They say that's called temptation, when other people tried getting married people to do stuff with other people. Stuff like that happened to me. Different people said they were sex workers or exotic dancers, or some people said they were like police officers and nurses or doctors and professionals. And I never had any kind of sexual relationship with any of those people. Some of those people touched me and tried what they call seducing me. And I'm not sure what that word means, but they say it means when a person wants you to feel sex feelings about them and other people that you do not want to feel. People of all the churches say that's a feeling that bad people wanted other people to feel, because some people do not like being married, or the God of being married, or the church. And it's crazy. My marriage license is evidence of me believing in the God of being married. They always told me about a God with the beliefs of no sex before marriage, no children being born out of wedlock, and a God they talked about is the God of being married, because they say the idea of being married came from a God, the God known for being married, known for the idea of being married. And I have to say this because someone tried stealing credit from our God. You know, all of the believers of the same God. Someone tried stealing credit from our God. It is because of our God, you know, my God, that the only person I ever had sex with ever in life, you know, what they call going all the way. It is because of my God that I only ever had sex with a person when they said they were April, using the marriage license of April 30th, 2004, using the birth date of April 30th, 1986, saying she is my wife, saying she is the mom of a child born August 31st, 2004, a child born July 18th, 2006, and a child born October 6th, 2008. Some people say that they had sex with other people, that they had baby mamas and baby daddies and ex-husbands and ex-wives. Some people even said they were widows and that their spouse is dead and stuff like that. When I would go to church a lot, they would always notice I would be very quiet. And they would, sometimes some of the people would say, well, what about those thoughts and those dreams you have and those feelings and stuff? And they would seem very interested in what I would have to say. And I would be kind of quiet or shy, is what they would say about me. Because, you know, usually some of the teenagers would go to prom and they would be talking about having sex, you know. You know, they would dress up and wear those clothes and go to motels and parties, and they would act like they would act like married people, you know, doing stuff that they said married people do, but they were not married, you know. I never judged any of them for any of that stuff because, you know, I never went to any prom or any of those sex parties. So I never tried stopping anyone from being themselves or their self. Believing in the God that mostly all the churches I ever heard of preached about. No sex before marriage. No children born outside of marriage. No children born out of wedlock. I think it means the same thing as no children born outside of marriage. The way it was explained to me is if the only person that I ever had sex with ever in life said her name is April and was using the same birth certificate of April 30th, 1986 as evidence of the identity she used, and it was saying she's my wife using the same marriage license date of April 30th, 2004 as evidence of the identity she used, then they say I did it the right way, because no matter what kind of temptation, and they say that means no matter what kind of other people try dancing with me or in front of me, whether it was at a house or a bar or a club or anywhere, whether they were naked or a stripper or a sex worker or an exotic dancer, they all know that I never had sex with them, because since having sex means going all the way, having full-blown sex, some of the people say it's like, I think they say kissing is what they say they made it to first base. I'm not really good at sports. I was never on a sports team. And some people say going all the way, they say they scored or something. I don't know if there's some kind of point system. They look at it like a sport, like they got points or they scored something, like it's a game. I'm not sure. I don't really play sex games with people's life or people's children, their sons or their daughters, their brothers or their sisters or their family. No. But some people might say that, believing in a God that they say the idea of no sex before being married and no sex, outside of marriage. They say that, according to the Bible and different books, even Jesus was tempted. And they say that people say they saw a certain Jesus with a prostitute or with different girls, Mary, the other Mary, and Martha, and all of that, and all of that. But the same way they never said anything about having full blown sex or going all the way, it's the same way I never had full blown sex or went all the way with any stripper or prostitute or sex worker or exotic dancer or anybody, that is, according to my marriage license, if they said they were someone else. People seem to have sexually abused me because it seems like people used my marriage license and said their name is April and said they are my wife or said she is your bride. and was using the birth date of April 30th, 1986 as an identity, and using the marriage license of April 30th, 2004, saying she is my wife as an identity, and using the name April as an identity. They say there may be some kind of investigation going on or something because, you know, being sexually abused is not my fault. What happened to me, what other people did to me, if it was identity theft or someone using someone else's name or marriage license or birthday or birth certificate, those government documents or forms of identity, they say those are crimes that someone else did to me. And I feel bad about being abused, you know? Believing in a God of no sex before marriage, no sex outside of marriage. I know I have been a victim of temptation because other people solicited me. Some people said they were prostitutes or sex workers using internet and computer websites. You know, they were asking people, you know, how much money they wanted to spend for sex or escorts or I don't know what it's called, sex workers. And they say when you put those kinds of internet websites, or some of them call them ads on the internet, that those people were soliciting a lot of people, and that what they did is a crime because they were selling sex and targeting people, asking other people is what they were doing. They were asking other people to pay them money for sex on a computer website or internet website, you know. And they say it's not my fault what other people did to me and those bad questions they asked a lot of us, you know. And some of the people would say they were pop-up ads sometime. You could be trying to read about the gospel or study different religions or forms of spirituality, and a picture of a naked person or some sex stuff would pop up on the computer screen or your phone. It would say stuff like hot girls in your area or hot local singles or looking for a date. And sometimes when you would try to press the X button to make it go away, it would just go to the next screen and say, how much money did you want to spend? It would be like $40, $100, $300. They would say stuff like in call, out call, hosting, and all kind of stuff like that, you know. And it was like, if you are not the person who made those computer websites and you never asked anybody to pay money for sex with you, then you are not the person doing wrong. The people who asked you for money, for sex, or to see them naked are the people who did wrong, because they were selling sex, and they say that's called prostitution, and that it is a crime, and that if you are a victim of a prostitute, it's not your fault if a prostitute, you know, abused you sexually. They say some people were targeted, whether you're a male or a female, a boy or a girl. They say some people, if they see you alone or with no other person and it's just you, they would try to see if you wanted sex in exchange for money from them. And if they were already a prostitute or a sex worker before you met them, it's not your fault. The life choices or career choices or that type of work, since they call it sex workers, it's not your fault if they chose those types of jobs or work or careers. I'm not really sure what it's called because I don't practice those ways, but I am a victim of people who have practiced those ways. Being married, they say there is a God of being married, a God where the rule of no sex before marriage comes from, a God where the rule of no children born outside of wedlock or no children born outside of a marriage, those rules come from a God. It seems like the same God that most of the churches have preached about. I followed all of those rules, and I was told ever since I was a child, stuff like this would happen. That some people would be prostitutes, or they called them harlots. Some people call them sex workers or solicitors. People that would try having sex with people for money, and it was something they were already doing way before you ever even met them. And I was told, once I started telling people about what happened to me, they said, just stay away from those types of people. I do not have to talk to them or have sex at all with those types of people. And I never did. They say having sex means going all the way. If someone kissed you or someone attempted having sex with you and stopped and said, I can't do this, it's wrong, you did not go all the way if you stopped and did not finish the job. And they say, yes, that's what you are supposed to do. If you notice he is not your husband or she is not your wife, and you stop and say, I can't do this, this is wrong, that is the right way of handling those types of situations. Some people, when they are a victim of stuff like that, the way that I am, they would go to a church or someone they know for talking to them about what happened, because some people don't have moms and dads and sisters and brothers or families of people who care about them, you know. Growing up believing in a God, the God that they say says no sex before marriage, it's because of my God why I believe in being married. They say that a God believing in being married is a God. My God is married, because believing in being married means my God practices being married, means my God is married. So just like this marriage license is evidence, the God I believe being married is just like this marriage license. There is a husband, the example of being a husband, my God, the husband side of being married, and the God of being married, my God, the wife side of being married. Because being married means there is a spouse, a husband, and a wife. You know, the way I believe being married, according, you know, to the marriage I have and the God I believe in. And just like this marriage license, it's the type of marriage where there is one husband being a male, because that's what my birth certificate says, being a male, M-A-L-E, and one wife being a female, because that's what her birth certificate says, female, F-E-M-A-L-E. And when you use evidence such as birth certificates, her birth certificate would say April 30th, 1986, female, F-E-M-A-L-E, and my birth certificate would say March 4th, 1984, male, M-A-L-E. And that's the way they say I would have to say it in court as evidence of my birth certificate, March 4th, 1984, male, M-A-L-E, and her birth certificate, April 30th, 1986, female, F-E-M-A-L-E. Because those are the words the birth certificate say. And when you are identifying yourself with a birth certificate, you have to say the words that the birth certificate say. So the God I believe in and the type of marriage I believe in, believing in the God, the God believing in being married, the God of no sex before being married. They say I did it the right way because if the only person that I ever had sex with, according to my marriage license, is the person who identified herself as my wife using the name April, using the marriage license of April 30th, 2004, using the birth certificate of April 30th, 1986. She identified herself as my wife, the only person I ever had sex with ever in life. So I followed the rules of no sex outside of marriage because the only sex I ever had, going all the way, full blown sex, is with the person who, according to a birth certificate of April 30th, 1986, a marriage license of April 30th, 2004, which is evidence of she says she is my wife. And anytime other people try temptation or doing sex stuff to me or any of that, what they did, according to what they say the law is a crime of prostitution, soliciting, or sex abuse, because I was molested when I was a child. So all of that was sex abuse, because they say being sexually abused is not the same thing as having a sexual relationship. Being sexually abused, is being sexually abused, and they say that's a crime. And having a marriage license is not a crime. So when a person say they are a prostitute or a sex worker or a stripper or someone who is not your wife and stuff like that, they say, yeah, those are crimes because that's called soliciting and sex abuse. And it's called other stuff depending on if they tried going all the way with you. And not if they tried, but if they did go all the way with you, it's very wrong. So, when a person has an idea of being a sex worker or prostitute or trying to have sex with someone who is married and has a marriage license, what those people are doing when they do that stuff, trying to have sex with a married person with a marriage license, and they have a marriage license, it's wrong for the people who are not married to you doing that stuff with you if you are married and have a marriage license. If different people were using the same name and the same identity and the same birth certificate and the same marriage license and saying they are your spouse and they are not, they say it's wrong what they did to you. And it's wrong what they did to me. And that I did right, by saying something and telling people. Because if they say I have children, and since I have a marriage license, so I know I have a wife, making a public video and telling everybody so that the children can hear, my wife can hear, and so that everybody can know what happened, they say I did it the right way. Being a husband, different people, say that, hey, those other people, they were not supposed to be soliciting you, or Brandon. Those other people were not supposed to have been prostitutes in the first place. Being a prostitute is a crime. Stuff like that. And it was like, you're not supposed to blame the victim, the person who is not a prostitute. You're not supposed to blame the victim, the person who is not a sex worker. You're not supposed to blame the victim, the person who does not own a strip club. You're not supposed to blame the victim, the person who is not the manager of any of those sex clubs or bars and grills, whatever they're called. Because they say when they advertise, when they make commercials inviting people to clubs and bars and parties, and then sex workers show up and strippers and prostitutes show up, they say those are traps. If you never made a person into a stripper, if you never made a person into a sex worker, if you never made a person into a prostitute, it is not your fault if that is the path they chose. But when they approach you, soliciting you, asking you for money for sex, those are crimes. And it's the same thing they say. It's called projecting. When they put the thought and idea in your head of having sex with them, if you have enough money, they gave you those bad ideas of paying money for sex. So if you ever gave any of them money, and I've given people money before. Some of them said they were strippers, prostitutes, sex workers, exotic dancers, and some of the people just said that they were sisters and family members of different people, And I never had full-blown sex or went all the way with any of those people. Just like a story in the Bible about someone's son or a guy they said his name was Jesus. There was never any story about me having full-blown sex or going all the way with a person who is not my wife. Now, there is complaints about someone saying they were using the name of April and the marriage license of April 30th, 2004, and the birth certificate of April 30th, 1986, sexually abusing me using identity theft, and that it's not my fault because being sexually abused is not a crime. But whoever sexually abused me, it is a crime what they did to me. Being the victim of sexual abuse because someone used someone else's identity is not a crime. But the person who used and played with the identity of my marriage, of my wife, of her birth certificate, of her marriage license, doing that stuff to me is a crime. That's the way I was told. Growing up going to a lot of churches when they say no sex before marriage, believing in a God known for being married, a God known for believing in being married, a God known for the idea of being married, a God known for where the idea of being married comes from. They say it is a God of marriage, a God of being married, a God that is married, and that a God that has a spouse. And that the same way my marriage license says, the kind of marriage it is, the God I believe in has, is the type of marriage I believe in, where there is a husband that believes in no sex before marriage, and there is a wife that believes in no sex before marriage. There is a God that believes in no children born outside of marriage or born outside of wedlock. They say it means the same thing, so I'll just say no children born outside of marriage. And that is why in the family court of Jefferson County, when it says a child was born after evidence of a marriage license, you know, my marriage license says April 30th, 2004 as evidence of a marriage, and the birth certificates for the children, according to the family court of Jefferson County, they have birth dates and birth certificates that are dates after evidence of a marriage. Their birth dates are dates on their birth certificate. Their birth certificate has a date of after April 30th, 2004. The marriage license is evidence of a marriage, and the marriage license has a date of April 30th, 2004. And the children, their birth dates, according to their birth certificate, said August 31st, 2004, after April 30th, 2004. July 18th, 2006, after April 30th, 2004. And October 6th, 2008, after April 30th, 2004. So according to the church, I was told I did it the right way. And it's the same type of marriage that all of the churches that I've studied believe in, where there is a God of being married, because they say that's what the church is about. That same specific God of being married, you know, that way where they say it's supposed to be a male as the husband and a female as the wife, you know, and those are the kinds of birth certificates my marriage, you know, has, because the marriage license has a section where the birth dates are, and the birth certificate for March 4th, 1984 says male, M-A-L-E, and the birth certificate, the birth date for April 30th, 1986 says female, F-E-M-A-L-E. So, you know, someone tried stealing credit from my God. They say some of the people who tried stealing credit from my God were different preachers and different pastors and different teachers and different business owners and people that were part of different groups. They tried claiming that they taught me and that they tried stealing credit from my God, you know, for the way that I lived my life and the way that I practiced my beliefs, you know. They say since I'm one of the only people that they know of that only ever had sex with the person that, according to the birth certificate that says April, the marriage license that says April, you know, the only person I ever had sex with ever in life, you know, going all the way, said she's my wife. That those other pastors, whoever they are, not all of them, and those other preachers, whoever they are, not all of them, because I never met all pastors and all preachers, and those other business owners and groups and all of that, because, you know, I never met every business owner in every group. But they say those other people should never try stealing credit from my God. Because if you've ever had full-blown sex with anyone else before or after having a marriage license, or if you never had a marriage license at all, there's no way that you can say that you were the example or the teacher or the trainer of me, because you cannot train somebody to do something that you do not have experience in. And they say most people that I've talked to say they don't really know any other people that has that kind of experience where the only person they ever had full-blown sex with ever in life is the person that said they were their spouse, you know, using the identity of the birth certificate, using the identity of the marriage license and the date and all of that stuff. You know, they use birth certificates, social security numbers, marriage licenses. It's that all of those are government forms of ID, because you get social security card from the government as an ID. You get birth certificate from the government as an ID. And you get marriage license at the courthouse as a form of ID, and that those are legal documents. And so they say that some people have false claim that they were the trainer and teacher of me, and that you should never listen to them, because if they ever in life had sex with anyone, and they said all of the people know about it, because if you've had sex with them, whoever they are, then you know that they did not follow the rules of the same God I believe in the same way. So, you know, I don't really know their names and stuff like that or whatever, because I would be so busy, you know, focusing on being married. And they say everyone had the same problem of, you know, temptation. They say most people are people that different people tried having sex with and tempting them and trying to get them either to have a baby or get pregnant or have sex or join groups in different churches and different religions for sex reasons. Or some of them even said it was called a fertility group or a cult. And I never participated in that kind of stuff. And whenever people tried tempting me or tried getting me involved in those situations, I was never able to finish the job or something, because somewhere in the middle of doing that stuff, I would be like, this is wrong. I'm married, or I'm just a child, or you are not my wife, or you sexually abused me. However it went, you know, I was never, you know, part of those groups or whatever, you know. So, you know, it's evidence of making sure no one steals credit from my God, because you can't teach me or train me to be a way that you don't have experience in being. I believe in the God of being married. The type of marriage where there is one husband and one wife, the same way my marriage license says there is one husband and one wife. One husband being what they call a male, one wife being what they call a female. And that is the character of the type of God and type of marriage I believe in.